Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. Today we focus on two major areas. One, the flash floods, but also two, we look at the security attacks that happen. The major thing that we ask ourselves, were these floods or the Nachivubo channel, was it man-made, negligence, or most of all, the failure to implement what Ugandans desire? 4 lives lost, is this any count that we need to be looking at? Especially that we know that come November or the last quarter of the year, rains always come down. And the city centers has areas that get flooded. The biggest question is, who is in charge of this channel? But also, how do we make sure that the millions of merchandise that was lost by the traders is accounted for? We also look at the security situation in the Rwenzori region where security was caught flat-footed. 5 people lost their lives, and those are security personnel. 20 killed, those are the assailants, but also 40 arrested. Is this enough? What is the motive behind these attacks? And they happened before in Wakiso. What is different now? You can be part of the show. Get to us on our YouTube channel. Let us know what you think. Drop your comment there. Or our X handle on our Spaces UBC. And hashtag Behind the Headlines. Let us know what you think. The number for text or WhatsApp is 0709 60 25 92. Let me get to the panel that is supposed to make sense of what has happened in the last few days. On my immediate left, Dr. Sarah Birete, the Executive Director for the Center for Constitutional Governance. She's with us this evening. Good evening, Doctor, and how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and good evening, viewers out there. It's always nice to be on the national broadcaster's top show.
You were nowhere close to observing elections down south?
In Tanzania. You know, Tanzania has not been a good place for activists, and we tried to send I don't know how to call it, low voltage observer mission, but generally there was no election to speak about in Tanzania.
Thank you. Next to the doctor is Dr. Fred Muhumza, an economist, a director at a think tank, the Economic Forum at Makerere Business School. Good evening, doctor, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy, and our viewers. Good evening to everybody. I hope you're taking good care of yourselves and your neighbors and our country. Thank you.
Every time I see you, I keep wondering what food stuff we are importing. So that is a conversation we shall have another day.
We certainly need to, because I found out some other thing that we're importing.
You shocked me by it, so we'll get to that one in a short while.
Yes.
Next to a doctor is Chep Rope, Luke Joseph, who is the coordinator of the Sebei Elders Forum. Joseph, good evening, and it's good to have you back.
Good evening to you, Timothy, and thank you for having me. Greetings to all our viewers and the great brains present today. I hope I will benefit as I also share my experience.
Thank you very much. Next to Joseph is Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, a researcher, a scholar, is with us this evening. Good evening, Yusuf, and it's good to have you. Lastly but not least, making her maiden appearance here on the show, Hajat Sharifa Uzechi, who is Executive Director for KCCA. Good evening, ma'am, and it's good to have you.
Good evening, Timothy and colleagues. I'm delighted to join you today to discuss a major subject that affects the lives and economic status of the people of Kampala, Kampala being an economic hub of Uganda.
Thank you very much. And the traders are protesting for the second day. It happened yesterday, and today is the second day. A lot of grievances, some on the channel, others really things that fall in the docket of economics that need to be sorted for them to be able to move forward. How long can they hold government at ransom, especially that 65% of the GDP comes from the central area here, the business district? That's where the questions come from. But today we want to focus on the flash floods that happened on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Big numbers happened, especially here in Kampala, people losing merchandise in millions. A gentleman I saw lost mattresses worth 130 million shillings. But yesterday, the ED herself and the Prime Minister, plus the Minister of Kampala, visited the area, and they had a few remarks to make there. But we also go all the way to Sebei, Kwen, and Kapchora, but also we see what happened there. Mudslides happening, closing off a road between Kapchora and Kwen, meaning there is no access going through there. Dozens of people lost their lives, dozens still trapped, but also people, more than 2,000 people about to be resettled out of that place. Still we're handling these with gloves. Why? Why are we always responding reactively to such matters? Let's get to it. Let me start with the channel, and I'll start with Madam Edie. A lot of back and forth, letters we've seen, and we'll get into those letters later. But does this channel, did it go through a due process? I saw your letter. I saw the letter of the President, the Minister of Kampala. The latest letter coming from the Minister of Works today, we'll get to that in a while. But did it undergo a due process for it to be given to HAM to do it?
Thank you very much, Timothy, for that question. As far as we are concerned, as the Kampala Capital City Authority, we are following the due process. One, we received a proposal from the developer, and when we received it, because covering a big drainage like that one was the first of its kind in the country, we had to go beyond our normal engineering team and bring in experts in urban water and water management and drainage management. So we had to submit the proposal to the Ministry of Water and Environment to guide on how stormwater will be managed and whether that particular plan resonates to what is needed to be solved on that channel in as far as controlling the water flow and so on. The ministry guided us, and when they guided us, we put the conditions the ministry put to the developer to fulfill them, review his plans, and then bring back to us. And when we did that, the ministry indicated that the developer should employ a qualified hydrologist to be able to do the hydrology surveys and so on and so on. So he has been submitting a few things in piecemeal, and when all of them are not submitted, we could not approve the plan fully. Why I'm saying we are following, we are telling him all the things which have been given to us by the experts to be fulfilled before the plan is approved, have to be fulfilled before we approve the plan. So as it stands now, by the time he started constructing, we were asking whether he had followed. He had no approved plan because he had to submit all those requirements which we gave him in September. And when he completes submission, the approval will be given after the experts have guided properly.
So you're saying he has no approval? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes.
But the works are ongoing?
Yes, he started the works, and when he started the works, you remember when he holded off, we wrote to him to stop. And we also invited him, and we informed him of what he needed to do to submit all those things. Because when the president gave the directive and the prime minister transmitted it to us and the minister transmitted it to us, the instruction was clear: support the process. He did not say start construction. So what that meant is that as the technical team, we were supposed to give him what he needs to do if he's to have that development on that channel, which we gave. And he was supposed to comply with all that before he starts.
So let me get this clear, and because I've seen the letter you have written. He's developing. You wrote to him to stop, especially when he was holding off the area. You asked him to stop. But what I get from the reliable sources on ground is that there were soldiers that stopped your people, especially your division, your zonal commander, from accessing the place. So did he have an environmental impact assessment? Did he have an architect? Did he show you what was going to be happening there? Did this developer really go through the process? And also your physical committee, did it have a say on what happened there?
If he had all that, then I would have not written to him to submit them. Because at the time of holding off, he did not have them. We had not given him any approval. That's why we wrote to him to stop. And we later, after writing to him to stop, we had to give him what he needs to submit for us to approve. So at that time, he did not have them, and that's why we requested for them.
If I'm to ask, what do you have now that the process is still ongoing? Is it still ongoing, and what do you have that is allowing this process to keep going, the development?
At the moment, I'm not saying that for us, we have not given anything to allow the process to go on. But what we did, because we gave him conditions to fulfill, which we are submitting in piecemeal, but in the process, our teams, you have rightly observed, went there and they could not have access. So we had to write to him. Then, as we were in the process of waiting for him to finish submitting everything, the rains came. When they came, we could not sit back to say, you have not yet given us approval, therefore, we are not going to come and see what happened. So we sent the technical team to go around and see what really happened, because when we had the first flash floods on 7th, you remember that time, there was some retention of big volumes of water on the road. And we went there was a lot of debris. We told them that this is not acceptable, although the teams did not go inside because they were not permitted. So this time, when the teams went, they studied the whole situation and saw that there were constrictions which were along the road, and as a result of the construction, in addition to other factors which contributed to the flooding. So we had to come in and send in our teams so that that very situation of flooding does not repeat itself, even when we have not yet done the approvals. So we have attached our engineers to go and do the corrective measures as we finish the approval process.
My last question, Madam ED. Who is in charge of this channel? Who owns the channel?
According to the record I have in KCCA, KCCA has 8 major channels, which we call the primary channels. And among them is Nakivubo channel, Lubigi channel, Nalukolongo, Kansanga, Mayanja Kalidubi, Chinawataka, Nalubega, and Walfumbe. On those channels, we have secondary channels which feed into them and tertiary channels. When I received the letter from my minister guiding me to support the process, I had to go to the Ministry of Lands to do a search for the title of Nakivubo channel. And the title is in the names of KCCA. It is M878. So because of that, I had to write to the developer that as far as I am concerned, I do not see ownership, evidence of ownership of you on this channel. So if you are to have development here as directed, then you will have to ask for a lease. And he submitted a request for a lease. So that is evidence enough to show you that the channel belongs to KCCA.
Dr. Sarah, let me come to you. Hearing the ED, it seems to exonerate her with her writing, with what she said. They seem to have their ducks in a row. What are we missing with this whole thing? And why are 4 lives not put any value on?
You see, Timothy, Madam ED is not a ceremonial ED. She's the executive director of KCCA. She must take charge of her docket. If her office never approved development plans for Hamchugundu, what is Hamchugundu doing on a citizen's channel? She must be held accountable. And if Hamchugundu was to come to develop Nakivubo channel, in what I think should be a public-private partnership. That partnership must be clearly defined. The roles of the Physical Planning Authority of KCCA must be defined. If you are a private developer building a house on your plot in Kampala and you don't have your plan approved by KCCA, her enforcers will come and demolish your house on your land and stop you from construction. But she cannot protect public property. Her men are always demolishing people's homes on land that they own for failure to have approval plans. But she's here on a national broadcaster telling the country that the work we see on a Chivubo channel, there is no approval. Should we take her seriously? Two, we need to know the genesis of Nachuvubo development. You can start as far as 1930s. Of course, this is the main drainage channel in the city, covering several hills. I don't have all that geography. I thought we'd get it from her. Covering several hills, coming into the zone of valleys, combining the swamp that acts as a catchment area for Lake Victoria. There is a lot at stake. Two, you have the business community in town, which has lost billions of shillings. You have the environment of Kampala, where she is a custodian, because this is also the mosquito breeding area, main mosquito breeding area in Kampala. So you would expect that if she was to take full charge of her docket, her legal departments must be on top of their jobs. The physical planning and infrastructure docket must be on top of their jobs. The environmental department, as well as the gender and social development department. All these are directors under her docket. Either they are sleeping on the job and risking the lives and property of Kampala people, or maybe they don't know what to do. Because how did Ham come into possession of that channel? How does he block KCCA from access? If they have failed, at least and I want to compare that, impunity with the Rubowa Hospital construction, where the people were blocking the technocrats from the ministry from accessing that site, which has remained a site forever. But at least the ministry was courteous enough to inform the people that we have been blocked from Rubowa site. So what is the accountability of Madam's office to the people of Kampala? Those buildings that are soaked in water, even before we talk of the current loss today, are we even looking at the risk of future loss of the time buildings are going to be collapsing on those traders? And she's casually telling you, although she was honest enough, we have to thank her, but she has not approved, she has not done her work, and maybe she's helpless. I don't know how to call it. But what is at stake here for the people? You have challenges of encroachment on informal settlements. You have construction along banks and footpaths that is, likely to block the city for a long time. You have, I saw the statement from the engineers today, the Engineers Association, saying there is no qualified engineer on that site according to their records. The Engineers Association of Uganda, and they've written to KCCA. They don't have any of their registered members working on that site. They don't know the engineers working on that site. And they have pointed out the risks before the floods. On 10th October, they wrote to her. Did she take any action? So nobody is in charge of whatever harm is doing with his impunity on that channel. So then what happens to the people? What happens to the investment through World Bank, where lots of money were put into that natural channel development in 1998 that took place for about 10 years, and further development of taxpayers' money in 2020? Because we cannot talk of the channel as if there was nothing. What if that investment is spoiled by quack engineers on the site working with harm, with no supervision, and illegally?
Allow me come to Yusuf, and then I'll come to the economists in the middle here. Yusuf, the clip, and I would like my producer to play that clip again. Why do we posture? Because when you look at it, the Prime Minister has been directed by the President. She has gone down. She has the Minister, she has Madame Idi, and really you are wondering, walking through this, and we're going to I'll get to the tokenism later, but why are we posturing? Because Ham's words in that video, he's specific and he says, CAF gave me certification for the stadium, but they said it cannot be around this channel. Then you look at the President's letter that talks about how this is imaginative and it's a godly gift. Help me understand this posturing and this whole scenario of these things before we get into interrogating these letters.
Your question is biased. You're using the word posture, which in and itself is a way you look at things, which I think is a fair assessment. There's a bit of posturing. But first I want to come to Hajat Sharifa's defense. I think what she has done, quite honestly, is to wash her hands clean, to say, as far as my office is concerned, this is what we have, right? And I think that's the limitation of her office, because as you can imagine right now, we are in the terrain of politics, 311. It's not about what technicality was followed, what wasn't followed. So when you see the Prime Minister going straight to the channel right after the flooding, she's not there to say anything to appease us. She's there to protect her investor. Because, and this is my problem with Museveni's investor, Museveni's investor are as broke as us, that instead of spearheading major projects, they're fighting over small things with the rest of us peasants. You remember when we had Hassan Basajabalaba fighting over markets with other traders. Now Hamis Chigundi is fighting over the same things with, these investors are not capable of seeing where real money is. One of the things that I've said to you, Timothy, on this show, is that my problem with our investors is that when you opened up in 1990s to privatization, they never went for those things where there is big money. If Brother Chigundu was a serious investor, you can take your money outside of Kampala, build a stadium, invite Kampala to wherever you go, where there are no channels, where there's just open land that you can easily take over and build something substantive that you can get all the approvals you want. But you know, their dreams, I mean, I tend to say sometimes their dreams are small. They wrangle in the small spaces like everybody else. You see, so this is why you see Nabanja rushing to the crime scene to say, I am here on behalf of government, and is in cahoots with the investor to say, this investor you're seeing is not small, works with us as government. And you know, as she goes there, she drags the executive director alongside. In truth, from what Hajat Sharifa has told us, Hamis Chigundu should be arrested. Hamis Chigundu should be seen hobnobbing with one of the executives, either the Prime Minister or the executive director. Hamis Chigundu should be arrested, because whatever he did, as from what the executive director has told us, were illegal. From the very beginning to where we are now, everything is illegal, because you can't do things backwards. So you start your constructions, you endanger people's lives and businesses, and then you turn around to seek approvals. All that is absolute illegality. Hamis Chigundu should be arrested, and arraigned in court. Even if he spends a night in Luzira on remand, he should learn that. And you see, and I'm going to say this in all fairness, Timothy. You know, when you watch Ms. Chegondo's promotions of the work he's doing, all he's saying that, you know, support me as a local Ugandan, you know, to also grow business, build, buy Uganda, build Uganda, allow a local investor to thrive. I am, now that Zoran Mandani won the New York mayoral race, I can proudly claim to be a socialist. I love locals doing business. I support UEDCL with all its failings. I'm actually begging the Ugandan public to give UEDCL time, because it is now owned by us. Maybe later they'll perfect their game. So we love nationals doing things. But the amateurism that comes with it, the sloppiness that comes with it, the illegality that comes with it. Because you see, Timothy, with all the connections that Hamis Chigundu enjoys, with all the connections he enjoys, Hamis Chigundu is able to legally and rightfully access the Kampala Drainage Master Plan, because he has the connections, he wants to access those things. Hamis Chigundu is in position to do the things the right way, because he has the connections to do the things the right way. Remember one time, you remember the former IJJ, Bettina Misango, was actually running to Owino to protect this very investor. Which means this investor is a big deal. He's not your normal investor. But we would love that he's in charge of these things. But the sloppiness, the amateurism, the illegality, the quick fix, the way in which the makeshift nature of doing these things, right? So this, all of it put together is, you know, the argument they normally say that, you know, Ugandans are so lazy, they are incompetent, they can't do things the right way. So Ms. Chigundu has used these connections to access a major ecosystem, and is messing it up, risking people's lives, risking people's businesses. You remember when an investor, and Hamis Chigundu is really lucky that now he has the full backing of the state. There was an investor who wanted to cut down a piece of Mabira forest in 2009. That investor had to be protected by the state, not to be lynched by the public. I'm not calling for mob justice. But what Kakira wanted to do, was it Kakira? Meta, what Meta wanted to do to Mabira Forest, Hamis Chigundu is doing it to the Chivo Chan. Yeah. You see, what Meta wanted to do, our major ecosystem in Mabira, Hamis Chigundu is doing it, and absolutely illegally. There are clear-cut procedures that he should be following. He's not following any of those. And Hajat Sharifa is here taking the heat for things which are ideally beyond her power, because she found Hamis Chigundu already in charge of that place. When they added a clause in the thing, in the provision that it has to be given to a local investor who already has interest in the channel, who works closer to the channel, Hamis Chigundu was already there. You see, so Hajat Sharifa was taking the heat. We're being so unfair to her. The things are way beyond her office, because we are in the terrain of a very well-connected local investor who is doing his job so in a very amateurish fashion that he's risked the lives of Ugandans and their businesses.
Yusuf, and you make very valid points. The thing that is really, there's a letter from the president, and the justification is in there, and I'll read a few things that are there for you to help us understand. People throw rubbish, plastic, garbage, and this leads to blockage of the channel. The proposal is imaginative and simple. Allow him to cover the channel after cleaning and strengthening it. Build properties to recover his money. Then this letter is sent to the minister sends it to the ED. The ED is quite interesting. She says, this is before, she says, detailed scrutiny and extensive consultation, acknowledging Ministry of Water and Environment and NEMA. NEMA is quiet about this thing. 16th, she receives a report that unauthorized people are holding off the Nachivubo channel. 20th, she sends out that unlawful activities are under this, but also the physical planning committee was reviewing the Minister of Kampala's correspondence. And on August 13th, and the other thing that he's applying for a lease for 6.5 acres versus some other claims or allegations of 45 acres. This drainage covers 18 bridges from Chagwe Road all the way to Entebbe Road. The letters are really not specific. What are we missing about this whole thing? For lack of a better word, who's fooling who?
Nobody is fooling who.
Because Ugandans are just caught.
No, we are.
As spectators.
No, we're not spectators. This is the crisis that befell us from the 1990s when World Bank, which is funding this channel, insisted that we privatize our things, so that we have rich people from among us and from elsewhere start doing things. And for a very long time, we haven't had serious investors doing things. We haven't had these people. Many of the investors we have who are local are happy to take deals and commissions. They don't invest in anything serious. They don't own banks, they don't own telecoms, they don't own mines. They're happy to take deals. And what we are witnessing in Nachivubu is an embodiment of that crisis. That our investors' dreams are so small, they're content to fight with us, poor people. That we have failed to cultivate a group of rich people who are actually interested in actual money. That these people are fighting with us. So, and Museveni has really endorsed this, because we look at Kampala. Kampala has many, many centers of power which are often working against each other or working without the awareness of the other. That's what you're looking at. And the more we discuss the details of the technical details of the construction, the technical details of which letter said this, which letter said that, is that we miss the crisis we have as a country. The failure to cultivate an ethic which appreciates procedure. We have failed to do that. And the man, Hamis Chugundu, is an embodiment of that. Museveni has gambled to create rich people, but he doesn't give them, clear-cut access to wealth. That we end up wrangling with them in our small corridors. Ideally, that Nachivubu channel would have been, communities of people around Nachivubu channel who have worked there for ages, were able to develop that place. You didn't need a rich investor with the might of the state executing. That's a small project if you're talking rich people. That's a small project. The money there is very small. But in our view of things, we think because there's a huge concentration of people, the money there is big. The money there is very small. There's money in major projects across this country. Major projects, I can give you an outline maybe for an entire day. But our rich people are running and conflicting with us in our small place. So what you're witnessing is not who is fooling who. It's a crisis we've had for the last, I think, 30 years. Remember, Samakade took Sajawala to court over awards because he would take over a market where he has no store, and then government will say, no, this market belongs to the people there, and then he will claim compensation, right? And he will get loans from banks with letters of approval from Bank of Uganda. So Bank of Uganda would say it would be the one paying Sajawala. I think that was also, Hamis Chugundu was doing that at some point. Remember the deal which went wrong with the South
GTB.
African investors? So Basajja Balaba was the man of that time, was the one being propped as the investor. But his dreams were reduced to markets, not big enough to go elsewhere and look for big money. So we have another man whose dreams are small, competing with other wretcheds in small places such as markets. So the crisis you're looking at Timothy, is way bigger than Hamis Chugundu. Hamis Chugundu is the representation of that crisis. That the men we have, the men that Museveni has tried to build as rich people, their dreams are in those small places, and they are so executed with absolute disrespect to procedure. Impunity has not thrived in this country. I'm telling you, for a serious country, Hamis Chugundu should be behind bars as we speak.
Okay, thank you. Let me bring in Dr. Muhumza. Dr. Muhumza, day two, I think between last year and this year is the most I have seen traders go on strike, meet the president, try to put their grievances, tenants, the Landlord and Tenants Act comes into play. The now second day, groupage has been chased. IFRIS was one of the contestations. Some of the things they're mentioning there. But also this channel with its water seems to have really 4 people dead, merchandise lost. What does this mean for the economics of the country?
Yeah, thank you, Timothy. It's really economy stupid. The campaign of Clinton won the American election 1992 on that slogan. That if you don't see the economy in this, then you must be economy stupid. Congratulations, Mamdani, again. How has he won? The first time since 1969, somebody gets 1 million votes in New York. And you have a very young man, and he's very humorous. He said, well, one of the first things I'm going to change is to move my age from 33 to 34. I'm turning 34 this weekend. But he has won, pulled off something very big. Part of his campaign was really to bring the cost of living, address the cost of living. He hasn't even said I'm going to solve it. But it's an economic issue. So when you look at what is going on here, is really a crisis that cannot easily be fixed. Politically, because the politics is trying to, as Serin Kumar is saying, these are small investors, if they are investors at all. You know, these days they have coined the word, tell me your network and I'll tell you your net worth. So his net worth is his network. Gamba Nogo. And that's why credit be given to our Hajat here. She's doing the best she can. In the banking sector, where sometimes I'm very active, the central bank is very clear. Don't lend money to PEPs, politically exposed persons, because you will never enforce. Let me use my friend, my OB, Abbas Yakagaba. If he came to a bank to borrow money, and then you lend him, and then he doesn't pay you, and then you go to court, and they say he should actually pay you. Now, you need the police to enforce. Which policeman is going to go to Abbas Yakagaba's home to pick his wheelbarrow and recover your money? So we stay away from those. Now, unfortunately for our ED, she can't do that. That's why she's done the best she could. This person is really violating the processes and the procedures. But what can she do? Net worth and network are holding out this. So you look down and say, who are the investors? And give credit, really, some of us have studied the economics and said, don't blame the doctor who gives you the medicine. Check the medicine. Maybe that's what you needed. Because if you're sick and they have to amputate you, you don't say, these doctors didn't like me, they cut off my leg. That's what you needed. In the 80s where we were, the World Bank medicine of privatize, liberalize was all there was. Because first of all, every government entity was not making money. So they were literally coming to the budget to look for money. Now these are the investors we are talking about here. You can click and link most of these so-called investors, the locals, many of them are really linked to somewhere, somehow, a public fund. They will start from there. So World Bank comes and says, guys, UCB is not making money, Uganda Airlines is not making money, Serena is not making money, Apollo Hotel is not making money, Brewer is not making money. Close them, let other people who have money come and invest. And true, as you can look back, you can list where these fellows came in. MTN didn't ask for any money from government. We are all talking, we're even now lending money to each other, life is easy and good. Airtel is same thing. Serena is here, is even boosting up the investment. Sheraton is out there. Breweries has moved on. Things have moved on. But there are certain things that become worse where poor people now want to present themselves. You said posturing. I come with an idea, I don't have money, and I want to present it there. What exactly do you want to do? That whole channel is full of literally imported goods. So even as they say, Kampala is responsible for 85% of Uganda's GDP. I go down there, I try to say, okay, what is Ugandan here? From toothpicks, to shoes, to used clothes, to borders, to mention it. Even the mattresses you're talking about, a lot of component is imported. So is that Uganda's GDP? I was talking to you the other day. This week I went to buy G-nuts, pounded G-nuts. from like a small place. I'm like, oh, I'm going home. Let me take some ginnets. And I ask this young man sharing, you know, scooping out, putting in the kavera. I'm like, where did these ginnets come from? I expected a simple answer, Kapchorwa, Sebei, maybe Kamwenge, Luero. No, Malawi. So what are we? It's economy stupid. That everybody is grappling and struggling. Where harm is building, already Qualisare is possibly maybe 30% occupied. That's why the other battles and the strikes we are seeing are not even before the channel and the water. They were about taxes. They became rent, agreements. Should we pay in dollars? Should we pay in? You can clearly see these are economic issues that needed sound economic solutions, and the politics won't fix them. Now you bring in the politics, you are not going to fix them. But the economics needs to speak to the politics, and sometimes that's why we get it wrong. We are not blending well with the decision makers. Now, when they issue decisions, you would have expected some technical conversation on how do we go about this. Hajat has really explained water is the unknown intelligent enemy. It's an enemy, it can kill you, but it doesn't know you exist. It doesn't come to kill you. And she has enough engineers to manage that water. So people even say bad season. It's not a bad season. When engineers put a makeshift bridge over Katonga, did they wait for Katonga to dry up? You have more water there than what you have here. So she has a good technical team that can really manage that. But like engineers have said, there is no official, professional, non-engineer in that space. So Peter Hajat, what is she supposed to do? She's presiding over a story which is full of politically exposed persons that in the banking sector, thank God, we're allowed not to touch them. But in her case, she doesn't have that privilege. They are right in her doorstep. They are right in her office. They are all over herself. So the question comes, how do we solve the politics and the economics in order to develop?
And you said very well before I get to Joseph. You've mentioned Qualisale and 30% occupancy there.
Some of them even less.
Even less. Even if you go downtown to all these
Yes.
buildings that are down there, and we still have buildings erected every day,
Yes.
every night. Is it justifiable, really, that he puts a drainage, then puts a building? Does it make economic sense that we need an extra building with already the ones that are there?
He has even not followed the president's guidance, because the president said, first secure the channel, then cover it. Now he hasn't even secured the channel. Because first of all, he should have dug up the channel, widen it, build it so that water is
protecting the
flowing,
drains.
then you cover it. He began by covering it and blocking it. So you look at all these kind of things, but that's what happens when market signals, and some of us really, we believe in the market. Now the market can be missing, the market can be regular, but that's why you are in there, like the referee. The referee just watches football, but if there is an infringement, he comes in. But let the football flow. So the market gives you a good signal. Now where you see a lot of free space and another building emerging next to where there is literally free space, you wonder, what is this investor thinking? The other investor is not making his money. Now you want to put yours next there. I come back and say, money has a value. So where did this money come from? There is no investor who invests without a mind of saying, what is the return on my investment? Now you can clearly see there is a lot of free space. People are poor. The other guys are not being paid rent. The tenants are crying rent. Their sales are low. Literally everything. It's a Mamdan case. If he came here, he would win. I don't know which mayor is going to take over Kampala and work with Hajat here. Hajat, at least you are going to be there, but pray hard that you get some mayor who will be working with you to solve this problem from the political angle. Until we fix the politics, she's going to continue having these hardships, and development won't happen in this city.
Thank you. Joseph, let me come to you, and let's stretch ourselves further to Sebei, Queen, Kapchora. Very unfortunate and very sad, especially with the mudslides that happened through the week, Thursday, Friday, on to Saturday. And I think your member of parliament from Queen was on the floor of parliament and said, even as we speak, on Friday, there were still mudslides there.
True.
Dozens of people lost.
True.
Dozens of people trapped under there. I know rescue efforts were going on until, I think, yesterday. About 2,000 or more families planning to be resettled there. Give us a picture of what really happened on ground, because you were there.
It's a pain and it's a pity that we are discussing issues of disaster and happening in different parts of the country. We are talking of Kampala and then Kasese and now in Sebei sub-region or Mount Elgon slopes at large. In fact, this did not only happen in Sebei, but also even across the other side of Kenya. It has well happened. The onset of rains were on from 27th to around 1st of this month, 27th of last month. And the current information, of course, there is still work in progress, especially in retrieving the bodies. As we talk, so far the retrieved bodies are 18 in both in the 3 districts, Kapchorwa, Kwen, and Bukwa. And we have also missing persons who are assumed to be dead because they are nowhere to be seen. Remember, this happened during night time. So these ones are really dead. There are 14 not yet retrieved. They are still within the mud. But you see, thank God for the locals who have gotten involved in this. And UPDF also came in with the hand hose. There were no other machinery, maybe because of accessibility. But we have 2 people who are hospitalized as we talk. So a total of 32 Ugandans have died within this period. Certainly they are very bitter. We shouldn't lose even any Ugandan at all. And what happened is the State Minister for Disaster Preparedness visited the place. And she met the locals, and afterwards they agreed to relocate about 2,000 locals to a place called Kabelio in Kwen, which is within Ua. But you see, the Ua officials were aware. During the meeting, they were there, and they also accepted that this should happen. But at night, you know, the relationship between Ua and the locals has not been good for the past 15 years. As I talk, about 51 Sabinis have died of gunshots by the Rangers. When I met about last year, we met with the chief warden, and we were discussing the same, and he was also showing me the statistics of those who were killed, the Rangers who were killed by the locals, which is very true that it happened.
And that number is?
It's about 35. That's according to him. Now, the relationship has been bad, and I saw that the chief warden is also hand-tied, and he feels this should escalate to a certain threshold that it will pull the center to the place and resolve the issue. Because as for now, it seems whatever he has in terms of proposals, and they have not been taken serious from the Ministry of Wildlife. Now, when they proposed to resettle about 2,000 locals at a place called Kabelio in Kwen, at night, the Rangers were deployed, and there were gunshots. They beat up the locals. Remember, they had already been stressed by the loss of relatives and running away. You know, animals were lost. Buildings were crushed by stones. And in that state, Red Cross took some food and also gave them some tents. They carried away, dismantled the tents. So people had to run for their lives into the bushes. Others scattered within the place. Now that's the situation, and the people were bitter, certainly. The following day, they came up and nothing has been resolved. Some people have chosen to get scattered within, but of course they are very bitter. Remember, this is also a political season, and we are expecting President Museveni next Monday on the 10th and 11th. I don't think he's going to find happy people jubilating as usual. This time round, things may not be very good for him. Now, the people who are due for resettlement are about, to be realistic, about between 500 to 700. But initially, of course, these others have now run into the villages and within amongst the people there. But about 500, 700 are completely stranded. They are there. They are stuck within the same place. They are saying, okay, if war comes to kill us, you know, UWA is an acronym. And in our language, they speak Swahili. And you know, when you say UWA in Swahili, it means kill. So they begin feeling that resentment and bad blood between the two groups of people. So that's the pain we have at the moment, and we don't know what's going to follow.
And sticking with you, Joseph, especially looking at what happened, 10 tons of maize, of posho, and 10 tons of beans have been sent. Why isn't this avoidable? I also want to put something to you. I know there's been a lot of deforestation.
Yes.
There's also been a population boom in the area,
yes.
hence pushing people towards the mountain.
True.
For two reasons, housing and cultivation.
Yes.
So I see forces have pushed the people there.
True.
But also, what mitigation measures have you done as leaders in there to support the people, to tell them the dangers of this mountain?
Well, we have had meetings, the barazas with the locals. We saw this coming, and sometimes they have nowhere to go. Remember, these people, some of them are in camps, and it is not their making to be in those camps. What happened is that in 1983, when they degazetted that place to make it a conservation area, some people were living inside there, that the Bennets you know about. Now those were relocated, and when they were pushed out of the forest, they were put in camps. And the population has increased in those camps. They have been doing cultivation from there. Very poor people, not educated, with no toilets, and invested with jiggers. Now that's what happens in those. Now with that population surge, they have ended up cultivating and misusing the land to the level that now the land has given way, and also given the gradient of the place as well. Now, that's one issue. Secondly, the lower belt, which you know last time we discussed about here. What happened is that the peace which was brought by, let's say, by the government, that is restored by stopping cattle rustling in the 80s and 90s and then 2000 and something. That peace brought us a problem in a way, because during cattle rustling, people migrated, they ran and also occupied the same space up there, putting pressure on the same piece of land, population increasing, and the people, and yet the land is not expanding, and they're cultivating from the same piece of land. Now, looking at the lower belt, there are unscrupulous individuals went and got titles for the pieces of land. It became hard for the locals to go back, because when normalcy was restored, they wanted to go and occupy their land. They were arrested. Some youth even went there. They were arrested because they were now this time referred to as people who are trespassing in their own land. This is where we buried our forefathers. This has been known for ages, that it's the land which belongs to this very community. Now, after being pushed up and also pushed away from the forest, you are now living in a small stretch with the increasing population. This is what has caused the problem. Even as we talk now, there's going to be food insecurity certainly, because what we cultivate now, we used to have granaries. These days we have no granaries at all. People are just living hand to mouth. And if the rain was not sufficient, probably wouldn't be, because what the main crops now are these Irish 3-month crops to keep them surviving and maybe help them also to take children to school. So this is still a very big problem. But the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness has always come in when there is a problem. The question would be, wouldn't they plan for this? Weren't they not seeing this coming?
I also heard that the ministry, OPM had visited the Sebei region over and over after numerous calls from the leaders there. What happened? What has been done?
You see, the biggest problem is not that the government doesn't know the problems of Sebei, which include the land, the boundary, with the neighbors, and then the UA, and then also all those other problems. They know, and they start on them, but they don't complete those projects. For instance, resettling of those people who are in the camps. Like there are those camps called Rwanda, there's another place called London, and other camps there. They started the process in 2015, established a team, and they began resettling people. Halfway the journey, they dropped the whole program, and then the population continued increasing. They had not resettled the people. That's where the problem is now.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to Madam Idi. I know you have a lot to respond to, but before you get to that response, we see when the rains come around, drainage becomes an issue. What is the plan?
Thank you very much. First of all, we should appreciate that our drainage system, the current one, has aged. It has outlived its usefulness because by the time it was constructed or built, we did not have this type of development we are having now. Out of the 362 kilometers of drainage, we only have 104 which is lined or constructed. And you are aware that wherever you have a drainage which is not constructed, it slows down the movement of water. It is easy to clog in case of irresponsible waste management and so on. So if our drainage master plan is funded, and then we have all those drainages, both primary, secondary, and tertiary, are well lined or constructed, then it means the flow of water, the connectivity will be easy. When you talk about what happens, why do we have these floods? There are many contributing factors. Other than the way our drainages look like, there is also the element of the human interventions. Other than the constructions which are going on, you have irresponsible management of waste. Even where we have intensified the campaigns of responsible disposal, separation of waste, and so on, the laws are sufficient to tell us how we manage our waste. In the NEMA Act, it is the responsibility of the generator of waste to manage the waste until the point of disposal. In Kampala alone, Kampala Capital City Authority is responsible for the slum areas, the public institutions, that's where we collect waste from. The rest are supposed to pay for commercial waste and domestic waste. But it is a problem for them to pay, and as a result, the waste ends up in the drainages. This flooding which happened recently, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, in the buildings when we went there, up to now, our desilting teams are there. They have had to break some parts of the buildings because those buildings which are along that line, most of them are actually in the ecosystem. They're in a wetland. And inside them, you will find that there are wells constructed. But there are small tertiary channels passing below. Now, inside there, they had clogged. And we have had to break open to remove the garbage which has been there for some time, and it contributes to the slow movement of water. And even those landlords have been, we have written to them on the defects we found, and but at the moment, because there is a crisis, we have sent our teams into the buildings to help the declogging of those areas. So irresponsible waste management is a problem. Our drainage system has aged. We need to upgrade it using what we put in our drainage master plan. The major drainage channels need to be constructed for easy flow of water, but we also know that they have feeders. So even if Chikam Enterprises constructed that nachivable drainage the party is constructing to international standards, the way other countries have covered, as long as we do not handle these other tertiary and secondary drainages which feed into there, the problem might continue. So the call is, since we already have a master plan for that matter, it is important that this master plan is funded so that we overhaul our drainage system. We know that it works. For areas where we have improved, like Bugolobi, Makerere Hill, Kalere, Ndeba, the flooding stopped. Where we have put box culverts, as opposed to the circular culverts, which were very small, the passage is now smooth. So it is important that we invest into rehabilitating and redevelopment and reworking our drainage system. The plan is already there. The issue is to fund. We have put it in our strategic plan, and we are hopeful that government will give us money to fund that drainage master plan. So even when these conditions are fulfilled, which are being worked on, still we need to work on the whole of Kampala in as far as draining it is concerned. The other issue, there was an issue on 48 acres, 6.5. When you are given permission to develop, for us as KCCA, we know how to determine your area which you are going to develop. When they say develop the channel, we first look at your proposal. We are not going to give you the entire channel when your proposal is covering just a small part. So we measure the footprint of your proposal, and that's what we did. We measured the footprint, and we said according to this proposal, it is not the whole channel. Your proposal covers only 6.5 acres, and that is the only part for which you should ask for lease. And that's why he had to ask for lease for that part. Then the other issue is because of the defects which we saw when we went there, even when the Prime Minister was there, we had a meeting, and we had to make sure that as we process the approvals or the building permit with experts giving us information, there is need to have the corrective measures done so that we don't have a repeat of the same. So that's why we had to provide engineers to support the process. We have also sought help from Ministry of Works and Ministry of Water to have engineers join our team. And more people will join our team. But that is on the side of government. You know very well, if you have a development you are making, you are supposed to have your construction engineer and a supervising engineer. And all of those come after the plans have been fully submitted. Then we know which engineer, architect has submitted this. And as KCCA, we start working with that particular engineer to guide. So in the meeting, we were guided that we need to support the process. Yesterday, we wrote a letter, and we instructed our team to go one by one from the conditions with the team of the developer to ensure that all those things which are missing are done. Because at the end of the day, when the people of Uganda suffer, they do not want to know what is behind the curtains. What is important, as the president said the other day, if there is anything wrong which has been done, it has to be corrected. Even in normal development permits, we have development permits which are made, for example, when a development has been already started, you make a request for approval as built. But approval as built does not mean that we are just going to take what you build and you start from there. Our teams, if he completes submitting what we required him to submit on the original proposal he gave us, our teams have to go to the structure to make an assessment, an integrity test of what has been done, and then suggest corrective measures, even if it means breaking some parts. That has to be done. Because as you saw, you've shown the video there, the inlets to the channel are small pipes like this. The control channel outside, if the flash water is to flow in, they are big volumes of water. They cannot enter through those small pipes. We have already told him those pipes are not what he presented in the original proposal, which we are studying. So when we finally approve, these teams have to go there and we map all the 75 inlets which were on that channel, and those parts have to be broken.
Okay.
So the corrective measures have to be made.
Okay, thank you. Let's take some feedback, and when we come back, we'll give comments so that we can be able to close this and pick up another topic. Good evening, Timothy and the panelists. I totally agree with Dr. Sarah. The public servants in this case at KCCA should be accountable for the illegal structure on Nachivubo channel, especially with the background of Chitezi. Her predecessor was sacked, slapped with charges. Why isn't it the same here? Until senior public officers are held accountable to a standard, the act of conviction instead of just occupying offices at public cost will swallow us up and it will be criminal. This is Julius Ankunda. He says impunity must stop, okay? Someone else says, good evening, Timothy. You people, we shall talk and talk, but Hamis Chigundu is very powerful because the president is supporting him. This is Emma Nambole. The ED, do you have powers to stop Hamis Chigundu and his construction? The answer is no. This is Opio in Mukono. Okay? Lawrence says, Lawrence, I'm a broker in Mbara. I do not agree with Dr. Sarah because flooding has been going on even before the construction of the channel started. I therefore think that what is missing is the drainage channel master plan that should be made possible by KCCA. Okay? Finally, good evening, Timothy and the panelists. Listening to the ED, it is only tears left in my eyes for our beautiful country. The Nachivubo channel is far beyond what our eyes can see. And like the common saying goes, leaving the issues of the generals to the generals. This is one that is even beyond the ED. She has no say whatsoever. This is Chakala. Finally, to the discussants, does the policy plans meet the objectives of the strategic implementation? Corruption has taken a lead in everything and it's expensive to the nation's beneficiaries. Thank you, honorable discussants. Does the policy, okay. Continue. This is James Tumuine from Chankwanzi. We'll leave the responses there for now. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll make final comments on the flash floods all over the country, and then we'll jump to the security attacks that happened thereafter. This and more after this break.
Ugandans! The unstoppable internet deal of deals is here with MTN Wakanet Fiber. Connect your home with our starter pack of 100 Mbps at only 99k. And if you want more speed for less, we've got you. Get the 200 Mbps at only 129k. And the fastest one yet? Enjoy up to 500 Mbps at only 250k. To sign up, use the My MTN app or dial *100 *23#. Offer is valid till the 30th of November for both new and existing subscribers. Together, our connection is unstoppable.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
The Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Let's come back. Good evening and welcome back from the quick commercial break. We're back here on Behind the Headlines for the last leg of the show. And we're going to make quick comments on the flash floods a nice comment that Dr. Sarah made. The rains are just beginning. And the question is, are we going to continue compensating people, especially in the plight of what's happening? But let's get quick comments. I'll start with Dr. Sarah and I'll end with the ED. Quick comments on these floods and this whole Nachivubo channel.
So my question is, one, you have a person who goes on a public property illegally and causes damage to traders in billions of shillings. Even the buildings are not yet quantified. We are talking of merchandise. Other damages, we don't know how much it is. Why do we shift this burden to a taxpayer? Ham must pay for his crimes. He has businesses that can be attached. As a taxpayer, I don't see why I should be responsible for the illegal conduct of harm on a channel and the damage caused to traders. This bill must go to harm. If he is doing public work, maybe this is another war hospital. Then let the matter go to Parliament. If Parliament endorses that taxpayers should be embezzled for the crimes of an individual, then maybe. But harm must be accountable. Pay the traders for the loss of merchandise. Some of the traders have lost real money. You know, destroying currency is a crime. That should also be added to harm. Then the buildings, damage of the buildings. Madam Edie talked about illegal construction of some of the arcades. And then back I was like, but when did KCCA drop the ball? What does your physical planning department do? How do we get to have these illegal structures in the heart of the state? Then what happens in the outskirts? Do you really supervise these arcades? Like the issues you are talking about, that they are blocking drainage, some of the arcades. How would, I know you were not in KCCA, but when you occupy an office, you inherited the institution and its crimes and whatever happened before you. But what does the physical department do? That should also be called into question.
Okay.
But also going forward, the rains are yet to come. It would be good to know what are the contingency plans other than rectifying the defects. What is going to happen when the rains intensify?
Thank you. Let me come to Dr. Muhumza. Dr. Muhumza, something that Yusuf hinted on, and I also heard Dr. hinting on, impunity. At what point do we say enough is enough?
When you say we, do
you
we
want
say...
to get on the streets?
No, because...
I will ask who is the we you're talking about.
The Ugandans.
No, you need to begin from there. And I used the example of my friend, the IGP. It's not that you shouldn't lend money to such people, but always say lend with caution unless you know them. So there's a lot that you need to be bringing in here. The rains, already this is a change of climate. The rains I know are supposed to have been in October, November they should be wearing off. But here they are coming.
Climate change.
But it's not only Nakivu. We have seen floods in different parts of Kampala. So you shouldn't even be discussing Nakivu, it's just a sample. So you listed to us how many of these. Now, many of them out there, people are blocking them even as we speak. I see tracks of soil, poor sand here, poor soil there. We are really, the we requires to be amplified even as we speak. I'm even looking at other disasters that are not water related. Because Madam Edie here and her team should already be saying, what if a fire broke up here? Remember, these are mattresses down there? Anything can happen. What are the evacuation plans? Where do you take the victims? Is there a KCCA big facility in that neighborhood? So there are very many things on her docket, and I know the KCCA have been with them for years from the different projects. They have done plans and plans of this city on different things, the roads, the bridges, the water, the hospitals, no funding. So when you say we, we all are trapped in this, and we have, as I said, it's economy stupid. We have to come back and think and say, we are not definitely going to be America. We're not going to be Japan. We can have flyovers, you can have, I don't know now, you put too many traffic lights, how are you even going to fund them? Many times I find they are off. He talked of UETCL. So if the power is off in the entire Nankrabi, where is he supposed to get power to light up the streets? I mean, there are so many things we need to bring in the picture. This one, we should be looking at it as just one sample that requires to go back, and the good thing, as she has said, the plans are there. We need to get back to these plans and say, where do we need to modify them? How do we need to finance them? How do we face these things? Water is all over Kampala. Diseases are all over Kampala. Don't cover the entire channel. We see need some mosquitoes. You know, this is an ecosystem.
Yeah.
Not all of them give us malaria.
Yeah.
There are bats in Kampala. There are frogs in Kampala. This is their food. So who is looking after the wetland and its entire ecosystem that we know? In the absence of those frogs, who knows which epidemic is going to pop up tomorrow? Because there are certain things that are being muted down there because of that ecosystem. So I want to let the technical people get back and be given their space. And once the technical people have their space, we say, how do we finance this to the benefit of the politicians? As long as things start from politicians to the technical people, some of the technical people will not be able to do what they are supposed to do. And minus the technical people doing their work, we are going to continue in this kind of circle. The president should allow the scientists he's paying well to do what he paid them for.
Okay. Joseph, let me come to you. Even the trade between the eastern region all the way going through Queen, that road has been closed off before it was even launched.
Yes.
Business between Kenya, there's a lot of traveling around. There's a lot of mud there.
Yeah.
But the eastern region, let's talk of Bududa. We have been here, we have talked about it, Dr. Mhumza. We're talking about now Kapchora, Queen, and Bukwe. There's also the banks in the southwestern area there where banks and rivers give way.
Yes.
Why are we never prepared?
It's an issue of, it's a big thing actually which has been in existence for some time. And we are not ready because we don't focus on it. We are just surprised that it has happened. And it's like we are caught unaware because of lack of planning for this, when being deliberately focused on the very issue which is at hand. For instance, looking at now the road has been blocked for a number of days, now about a week. In some spots, there were no graders to move away the mud and the big rocks that have fallen on the road. They had to look for them, and sometimes they may be available and there's no fuel. So we have no plan for any response of such a kind. We didn't anticipate it, and neither did we plan for it. No contingency plan to have this done in any way whatsoever. That's why the problem is, even at the local governments, at Kweno, Buko, Kapchorwa, it has never been there. So these are the issues. And even when the rivers burst their banks, in fact, like yesterday, they retrieved one body down the lower land after having been drawn for about maybe 5 to 10 kilometers away from the place of origin. It's because people, because government has no plan for it, for rescuing the people in such a kind of situation. That's where the whole thing is.
Thank you. Lastly, Serun Kuma, before I get to the ED, this tokenism, 5 million.
Which one?
No, the Prime Minister said that the traders are going to be given. The people
no, actually, the people of Sebei.
Maybe Sebei. I thought that was
the president
money for
gave
people who die in accidents.
The president sent condolence message through the state minister for disaster preparedness, where and there was a burial whatever arrangement for 5 million, and then for those who are hospitalized 2.5. That's all that has been given to the people. Of course, people don't feel comfortable because many animals have been buried, buildings have been floored. So you give 5 million, of course they are like, well, this is nothing compared with what has been lost.
Timothy, you know, listening to Julius speak, you know, there seems to be a disconnect between the rangers who are supposedly employed by the government of Uganda and the government itself.
Okay, I'm Luke, not Julius.
Look. So when government says we're going to relocate these people and put them somewhere, then the rangers move in the night.
Yes.
And shoot at them.
True.
So you see, both are working for government. The rangers is UWA. UWA is
Yes.
UWA rangers
Yes.
are actually a part of government.
True, under Wildlife Authority.
And government says we're relocating these people to a particular area.
Mm.
And then the rangers move in the night
Yes.
and harass and brutalize those people. So what is this confusion about?
Yeah.
Is there no confusion with the rangers?
To me, when I look at it in two ways. One is when you are sent to work. Now this brings out, that to me it brings the difference between a leader and a manager for that matter. Because a manager will have to look at the books and follow this. They want to do things, they want to do the right thing, the things right the way they think it's supposed to be done, according to the written instructions here and there. But with the leader, he will take action immediately and do this. So there's a disconnect. First of all, there is no communication between wildlife and then the local government, and then now even the locals. Completely there's a disconnect. Because now the rangers feel they need instructions from their boss. And their boss also needs instructions from the minister before they can take action to allow the locals to at least hibernate within the forest reserve.
Timothy, you see that disconnect you see in survey,
yes,
where local government and the rangers, both of them government, are in disagreement, in absolute disconnect, which actually ruins the lives of the people. That's the same thing happening in Kampala. The same thing, it's the model applies everywhere, that there's absolute disconnect. And you know, one of the things bothers me, Timothy, and I'm going to make this really small, is, you know, Hajat Sharif Abzeki here is a fine admin, is a fine public servant. I worked with her when she was in public service at Mulago. And her work is clean. But when she got appointed as ED, I remember writing a tweet that there's nothing as bad as being appointed to fail. Because right now, she would love to do the right thing the right way. But now she's being harassed to follow a rogue investor when a deal goes bad and try to clean it. She said, we have been guided. This is the executive director. Guided by who? You're the executive director in charge of governing the city. And then somebody else guides you on what to do. Because in this case, we have an illegal construction project which is supposed to take the full length of the law. Arrest the investor, cordon off that place, and follow the law. Maybe start deconstructing it, I think. Break it down.
Yeah.
But because, you know, there's powers up, so you sort of make a fine public servant look like she doesn't know what she's doing. It's the pain. It really bothers me so much that, you know, we have many fine minds in this country, many wonderful technocrats who know what to do. But because they're put in a system which doesn't enable them to thrive, it's very painful to watch. And I want to appeal, you know, to, I think, both the executive director and Hamis Chigul at some point, that I don't know how much time, Hajat Sharifa, you're going to appear to these shows or do, you know, media briefings sanitizing illegality, because there's a lot of illegality in this system. You're going to be, because as we observe, the rains are just beginning. There's going to be more damage done. There's going to be more madmen disaster, which falls in the docket of the ED. As Kiteze showed us, the ED often takes the hit that they're not meant to take. Okay. You know, so my appeal is, I don't know how much she's willing to do. I wouldn't suggest she resigns the job, but I think it's at that point that you consider your options very carefully. I want to appeal to Hamis Chigundu too. You know, you're a very powerful person. There's no doubt about that. You have all the connections that you need to execute any project. Do it the right way. Use your connections to do it the right way. Because I guarantee you, Timothy, because of his power, there is no way Hamis would fail to go through the right procedure, because he has the connections. Follow the procedures. Hire the technocrats. You have the money and you have the access. Hire, because it's embarrassing that the Engineers Association tells us that you don't have any qualified person on such a supposedly gigantic project. Hire the right people. And then finally, you know, these investors are lucky. that we don't have serious politicians nowadays, right? You remember when you had Mama Mabida? Mama Mabida actually led.
But she's there as a politician still at the moment.
No, the times have changed. There was Haji Hussein Chanjo, Sam Mugumya, who is now incarcerated. We don't know where he is. Haji Hussein Chanjo, Mama Mabida, Bet Kamia. When they were still serious, they led protests in this country which protected Mabida Forest. Now, they're lucky we live in a time where there are no serious people. All this for campaigning to be Kampala Central, Kampala this, Kampala this, Kampala this. You don't see them, you know, working hand in hand with the affected people. Otherwise, there has to be a movement to help Hajat Sharif Zeki also move the campaign to arrest Chigundu. There has to be political backing, mobilizing that we need this man not to pass his shenanigans to the public pass.
Yeah, but he has hired goons at the site. That's why they are blocking the technocrats.
But our politicians.
Okay, let's give the ED the last word here. I've just seen an advisory coming in from the Ministry of Works about the rains coming and what needs to be done. What's the plan?
Thank you very much.
In the short term and the medium term.
Yes, thank you very much. In the short term, one, along Savannah, Allen, and along the channel, even inside the buildings, our engineering teams, the silters, are going through all the connections, even those which pour on Entebbe Road, but particularly on the constriction which was there and caused this obstruction of water going into the channel. We have guided that all formwork, hoardings, timber props be removed so that there is smooth flow of water in addition to suspending activities. We have also said the inlets be opened, and this is under the guidance of the engineers. We have attached the inlets to the channel be opened so that water can freely flow into the channel. We have, there are some concrete culverts which had been put in the control center. We have said they should be removed because that has to remain open so that water can flow. Then, because that is going to be done while making corrective measures, and we do not know, the corrective measures may take more than 2 weeks or a month on some of them, so we are going to have standby suction trucks, the ones we used at the time when we had water in the buildings. We have told the developer to have those standby trucks on the site in case the volumes of water go up before the corrective works are finished. They should be able to suck out water so that they don't enter the building. But those are just remedial actions.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Quite a bit of feedback coming through. I'll read that later. But let's jump to what happened, especially on Saturday morning at about 5 a.m. Numerous assailants getting into the districts of Kasese, Fort Portal, and Bundebujo. 2 barracks is overrun and the police station there. Also, reports we have is that 5 personnel, security personnel, were injured there. 20 assailants killed and 40 arrested by security agents. Even as you go to this Rwenzori region, a lot of deployment happening there. But let's not forget that in the third quarter, a lot of these Bijambias were spoken about in Wakiso district. Let me come to Serunkuma first. Interesting scenario. The army and police coming out and saying these panga-wielding people, you know, when I saw one of the chairmen of a particular village talking about them walking in a gang of 50, and when he approached them and asked them, who are you? One was wielding a panga team, but then their seemingly leader ordered them to shoot him, but they didn't. What do you make of this whole scenario that happened in Kasese, Fort Portal, and Bundebujo, and what's the interest there?
It's funny you chose to start with me, the perennial skeptic. I'm always skeptical when reports like this emerge, especially in the times they emerge. Not to say they're entirely inaccurate, but I think because they're far distant from the city, we are seeing these reports being reported from those places, and we don't have, as the information keeps coming in, we need to slow down and observe carefully. The timing looks ridiculously funny, especially that, you know, Kasese still has a grievance that they've been unable to overcome as yet. I don't know what is the latest on the Mumbere. Is this not still under house arrest?
No, he went for treatment.
He went for but
Yes.
from house arrest for treatment.
Mm.
So there are still grievances in Kasese, right? And we haven't had, after the events of 2016, we haven't had the opportunity of a reckoning on those events. We haven't had a fact-finding committee to ascertain exactly what happened. We haven't had a sit down together and say, so and so made mistakes, so we need to move forward in this manner, right? So we haven't come to that reckoning as yet to say what happened in 2016 as we move on as a country. So we are now into 2025 and events of a supposedly similar nature being reported. Now, the interesting part is that they're coming in an election period, right? So what we've said before, the election is peaceful, the election is peaceful, the election is peaceful, and I've often argued, I think it's too early to say at what point do we conclude that the election is entirely peaceful, because you can't disconnect these events from an electoral process. They're very connected. Could this be, and this is me, you know, scholars' curiosity, journalistic curiosity, could it be that this is an effort to securitize the election? Because the previous election was so heavily securitized around COVID that events took the shape they took because they were securitized. Is this the moment that we securitize this election? You see, and you know, history is Ripley, our history. You know, I think it was New Vision. New Vision has been running stories where finally the men who are throwing bombs around Kampala are being arrested. Right? When we had terror threats across the city and many Muslims were thrown in jail, and I think many are still in jail, many were still being tortured. Now finally, you know, the state is saying it was these were all inside jobs. So that's not, it's not ancient history. This is like 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. It's not ancient history. So this country is so used to having inside jobs which take people's lives, right? And I'm not making this up. This country, not ancient history, 2-3 years ago, people are being arraigned in court on charges that working for the state caused this amount of damage, and they report it as being committed by other people, right? So this is the context we need to approach this, that in this fluid moment, fluid and intense moment of electioneering, when reports like that get reported, we treat them with skepticism. The Bijambia, which had MP Sewanyana and Mohamed Segrinya arrested for a very long time, we've never had a fact-finding committee. We don't know what exactly happened. All of a sudden, they just died down with those arrests. So we don't know what really happened as a country. So from our history of getting these violent actions, and all of a sudden we just lose interest. And then a couple of years later, we say, no, these were inside jobs. So for a journalist, a scholar, I see this with immense skepticism, especially with the history of what happened in Kasese 2016 and the recent arrests of inside jobbers who are now being thrown in jail. I'm very, very skeptical. But that's not to entirely dismiss. Because you see, one of the things that we struggle with in Kampala, and I think Dr. Mhumza here would agree with me, is evidence. That people who were involved in this thing spent 95% of their time hiding their tracks, right? Inside or outside the establishment. So we struggle. What helps us to keep a cool head is our curiosity and our skepticism, that we don't quickly buy into the narratives coming. We need to take it slow before we know who actually are the perpetrators of this violence. We need to be very, very careful, because we don't have a government that we can really trust in terms of giving us information.
Very interesting assertions at that. Joseph, let me come to you. Some of the assertions that I saw in some of the clips that were played, 4 of the assailants that were killed were residents within Bundibujo. They were known, and one of the brothers came out to say, we didn't know where our brother was. When you look at the scenario of the different facets of this whole attack, panga wielding, new gumboots, but also a police barracks and an army detach and a police station burnt, then the killings, the shooting. If they were panga wielding, why did we need shooting? What do you see as the motive behind this, and why now?
Well, one can easily relate it to the political atmosphere at the moment, but I wouldn't want to buy the idea that probably it is orchestrated by government to create fear.
Because we have a history of that. It's not new.
Yeah, but I wouldn't buy the idea because what would the government want to achieve? Are we saying that area is pro-opposition to the extent that the government would want to create such a situation to create fear in the people so that they don't either vote or they affect the voter turnout? I would be very reluctant to believe it personally. I want to think that probably there could be some unresolved issues maybe within Kasese, which have been going on, maybe in a latent stage, and maybe government has not moved in quickly, and sometimes when you want to call on government to intervene, a scenario is created like that, and then government goes in, and then eventually they get the information. I would think probably the people in the military would be in a better position to give us the actual truth. But what I know is that sometimes they share information on the need-to-know basis. So I would think this could be that from the locals within, there's a message they're passing to government, or these are maybe outsiders from
Congo.
Not from within the country, but outside that. Yes, it has ever happened that they have come in and done havoc and then gone back.
But
that has happened before.
Joseph, 4 of these were recognized as members of the community.
You see, in that place, it's like you look at Sebei. You will see the Sabinis are actually Kalenjins, and they have their brothers and relatives across. So you will find that some of them even are as well as Kenyans, as much as they are Ugandans, because they have Ugandan ID and they also have Kenyan ID. So somebody can be there, and even that side is also known as a Kenyan, and this side is also known as a Ugandan. So they can commit atrocities, and somebody will say, this is our neighbor, but in actual sense, the planning was done across. That's my feel, that it can be done, and then they come in and they try to create some turmoil, to maybe create some instability within the country at such a time like this, because it can easily be shifted to in people's mind to think that probably government is behind it, because of the environment in which we are now, but because of the season.
My last question before I go to Dr. Mumza. The lady in Kalere was shot down, and that was intelligence saying they had gotten information.
Yes.
Next day we see news in the Standard in Kenya saying this was a Kenyan. The bombing in Munyonyo, security tells us they got intelligence.
Yes.
How did they beat the intelligence this time? That even to a point, the chairman was moving to different police stations, informing them of the 50 people that had walked in.
You know,
how was there a lapse, or?
It may not be reluctance per se, but it's easier to detect an enemy when he is within the interior of the country than when it's at the border, when the enemy is at the border side. There it's a bit hard, especially if they have a similar tribe across and this side. You can easily confuse them, and it becomes hard for them to be detected. That's my personal view. But in the interior, it is easier to trace their movement up to the interior, and it's easier to also isolate them as well. Because you will have known, maybe they can track their communication, they have their systems and whatever, but there at the border, you will find somebody is either in or out, and sometimes even can leave the phone the other side and come without the phone into the country and they commit atrocities and then go back.
What's your view of their motive? What's the motive?
Well, I think to create a scenario that probably in such a time like this, maybe to divert, first of all, it's diversionary, to divert the attention that side, given the political atmosphere at the moment, and then maybe try to delay the process, maybe the electoral process in a way, maybe create some scenario of trying to postpone or delay them, but also maybe try to show that maybe some weakness within the government, maybe there's laxity in the security. That's my thinking. But I don't think they have any intention to capture government, for instance, with that kind of that kind of strength.
Someone sends a message and says the Msinga Charles Wesley Mumbele is not under house arrest. All charges were dropped. and the case was discontinued on the 13th of June 2023. All that had been alleged has been dropped and is on treatment now. Okay, thank you for that message. Dr. Mumza, and something Yusuf has said, even after these bombings that happened in Kampala, then we hear some people, it was an inside job, some people are arrested. When you read that and see this, what do you make of it? But also, what are the implications to the livelihoods of especially people in that region?
Well, this is really, I don't even know how to frame it. First of all, to get pangas, I know we have panga wielding people in the Kampala Central Region, but they come for me and you. But for people to get pangas and head for the UPDF, you are either mad.
You must be very courageous.
Not even courage. You must be so crazy.
Insane.
So, but
or highly motivated.
That's where I would go back and say, who is motivating people to that level? In the 80s, these things happened with Lakwena. They would hold stones and go to attack the UPDF. And the newspapers are there, 400 mauled, these ones, how many killed. So what exactly, who is behind this? Because I don't even want to engage these young fellows who got pangas to come. There must be somebody behind who is misleading them, confusing them, clearly knowing they are going to be killed. Because you don't get a panga and come to attack a barracks. What kind of logic is this? What are you thinking? Is it desperateness for what? And I'm glad now glad it can't be connected to Obsinga, no, not at all. But are these people have reached that level that they can be manipulated to those kinds of levels that you get a panga and go to attack the military? I am hoping that the military will finally get the information about who exactly is behind these kinds of attacks, because the young fellows will die and more may come, but we must get the person behind all this so that we can salvage these livelihoods of these young individuals.
And Doctor, you know, we tried to get General Kulaije, was not available, his deputy wasn't available, tried to get the police to come here to be able to give us insight on what happened. But you have said it, attacking a military detach, a police station, setting them ablaze with pangas.
Really?
What message were these people passing on? Because at the end of the day, we're missing something.
They were sent literally by somebody out there. Now that's the person you want to find, and I think that's why give it to the security forces. They don't want to engage the public before they actually say, what is it? Need to know best, as they say.
Yeah.
They will not tell us everything, but at least with time, they will find out some information that we need to know. And these are questions eventually that we'll engage and understand. But I want to believe the young people are being misused by somebody out there. Now, I don't know whether that person has a political motive, but certainly not a security threat to anybody. He can harm the security people. Cut one or do, but you're going to completely die. So
just quick information.
Yes.
See, when Dr. Musa says there's somebody out there misleading these young people, that's very dangerous to say, because it means you assume there's a bigger culprit who should be looked for.
I think so, because I don't think young fellows like those can mobilize themselves to get pangas.
That has been very dangerous, and I speak as a Muslim. It's been very dangerous to the Muslim community in this country, because many Muslims are often picked and thrown in jail for the claim that they were leading things like this. And at the end of the day, after this violence serves a political function, government loses interest. And you take the Msinga case and the Vijambia in Masaka as examples, government just loses interest.
Of course.
After the violence, which, as we know from New Vision stories, is often an inside job, has served a political function. After it serves a political function, people are still in jail rotting, they lose interest.
That's what I'm saying. Who is this? Who is getting the political function served? Because it's not these young fellows.
But then we need to look inside as well. My problem is we tend to look outside, but we have evidence from the stories that running in court in that in the main government mouthpiece.
Are you suggesting that inside means within the government?
Exactly. You have not been reading the vision?
Yeah, but whoever it is, that's the person I'm looking for. Could be inside government, could be outside government,
yeah.
but certainly not these young fellows.
Well, where wouldn't be an issue. To me, is there must be somebody.
Yes.
Now, if that somebody is there, then he must be looked for, whether within or without.
I don't want to believe these young fellows mobilized themselves, bought pangas from a shop, and went for a barracks. No.
But doctor, having said that, really, I want to think, not really to say I am speaking just for the sake of it, but by the time government takes a step, I don't think they will arrest somebody because of the religion.
But look, I'm not making it up. There's evidence.
Yeah, that's true.
The government has taken a step, arrested them because of their religion.
That's true.
It's thrown them in jail. So I'm not making that from the blue.
I'm not sure it was because of the religion.
No, clear cut.
You see,
even the jokes in this country.
Sometimes, doctor, with due respect, it could be by coincidence, for instance.
Oh, no.
It is possible they can arrest you.
There's a pattern which is well known. There's a pattern which is well known. In fact, the joke goes in this country. If you carry a Muslim name when a terror attack happens, you know what the comedians do? They start playing skits. If you have a beard, maybe you should cut it off. If your name is Yusufu, maybe you should change something else. Those skits are funny because they are true.
There's a gen I know who carries that name, but there was a time actually when people are being looked for tribes. Yeah. During the Opeta time, we were there, and being a Mnyarwanda was a problem.
But I'm not reducing my argument to just religion. I'm just saying individuals have suffered under the claim of being behind these attacks. And after this violence has served a political function, government loses interest. And even when they lose interest, they start hunting from inside themselves.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying give credit to them. They are still now trying to sort out that. As you say, maybe they got it wrong before, picked the wrong party.
Yeah.
But now they'll give them time, but I don't think these individuals are the ones. There must be somebody behind, who even if he was the one who bought the pangas and told them, go there, that's the person you want to pick up.
But it's also possible to have leading intelligence, which may end up being wrong. Yeah. That's why they withdraw. So you may have information and you really go with all the enthusiasm, but when you now realize that this was misinformation, what do? Do you continue? It's just honorably. That's why they lose interest, because maybe they landed on the wrong person.
Okay, thank you.
But sometimes it's a coincidence, but maybe they are of a specific religion or maybe specific tribe, for instance. And I want to believe that in the jail, and for the same reason of whether the Gambia and whatever, there are not only Muslims there.
Dr. Sarah, why is government leaving this blur for the public to speculate on what's happening? Because it is a security concern, and also just to add to that, the people that raise the alarm, what's the population? Why are they being left in the dark with whatever is happening?
You see, we need to map out the security architecture in this country. We have village intelligence officers, security officers, VISO. We have the same at parish, PISO, parish level, sub-county level, GISO, district level, DISO, regional level, RISO. These are all employees of the Internal Security Organization in Uganda. They work with other people. Half of the border riders in the country are security informants. Do you think that this network would fail to detect such an activity in 2 districts?
3 to be exact.
Yes. Do you think that all this network collapsed and failed to inform government of what was happening in these 3 districts? I don't think so. So the question then should be, what is it that we are dealing with? If you look at the history of pangas, panga wielding thugs, started as chifesi operated by police. For the longest time, Bijambia thieves in Kampala were working with police. Where did they go? Could they have been deployed for something else? If you look at the season we are in, Dr. Kizza Besigye was picked from Nairobi, allegedly with 2 pistols to overthrow government with 2 used pistols. That case is still pending in court. Before picking Dr. Besigye, 33 of youth had been picked. Later, a government lost interest in their charges to overthrow government. Could somebody be still working out with something to join with Besigye's story? Because the trial is yet to happen. We don't know. But I don't think that this security network in 3 districts would all collapse at the same time. I don't think so.
No.
Didn't collapse.
Let me
So how come it was the
Panga
citizens?
person, you have them here. Panga person just needs to be lucky once.
But people
Security
were moving
agencies
in
have to be alert all the time. And somebody can sneak through the panga.
in 3 districts.
Looking
All
like
of them are
looking like he's a butcher man who going to look for a cow.
Joseph says that.
but people were moving in groups
Exactly.
allegedly.
And
It
how-
wasn't one individual.
How would they know
Yeah, so
their way around a district if they were coming from outside?
Yeah, but at what point do they group up? They can move as individuals and then group right at the point where they want to attack. So where they are seen as individuals, anything can happen. But I'm sure we will get to know the truth.
Let me come to Madam Idi.
We never get to know the truth, Dr. Mumbuza. You know, you say,
Even that will be the truth, that we're not going to know the truth. That will be the truth.
We never, once they lose interest, no
That
more
will-
details emerge.
Yeah.
They just lose interest.
Madam Idi, when you look at these security concerns, especially that the closest it was to your city center in Wakiso there, what concerns you, and are you empowered enough to ensure the safety of your people?
In as far as the safety of the people is concerned, we have the Kampala Metropolitan Police. We work with the different security organs. We have a security committee which meets monthly, but we also have another committee inside KCCA where we have police, ISO, and other security organs are coming to join us to ensure that the safety of the people is actually secured. So we do not work alone as KCCA in as far as security is concerned, because some of the security concerns which come to us are actually not supposed to be handled under our docket, but we are supposed to collaborate with others. For example, you see issues like issues of fire. Fire is a preserve of the police, but when it happens, we as KCCA cannot sit because the people who are there are our residents. So we have to call in police to come and help. The other issues we are talking about, the bombs and others, those we have to be on the alert, working with the different security agencies to ensure that the people are secure.
Thank you. Let me read some feedback before I give you parting shots. Good evening, Timothy and the team in the studio. The government has forgotten the people of Sebei region. Last year, the same thing happened, but government did not show up. Among others includes the unresolved issues like the boundary conflicts, compensation, restocking, and continued raids by the Karamajong warriors, the Pokot warriors. Do not get surprised when President Museveni will be addressing more than 500 people in Sebei next week on the 11th. We are grieving in Sebei. This is Isaac from Kapchora. Okay, thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Timothy. The environment in Kampala City is full of dirt, boveras, empty plastic bottles. There is no proper feasibility plan to exhaust before the development of the Nachivuo channel. Automatically, the items will suffocate the drainage system, hence the overwhelming menace. Those developed countries have developed such channels and have worked without the rubbish of handling politics. Okay? Finally, the Honorable Mbide has said that the vital things have been ignored. The weather and the ecosystem of the channel. Kampala is likely to face a drought due to the absence of conventional rain, which is induced by vapor from the channel, but also Kampala will experience very high temperatures as a result of zero condensation, but also dry air. This is Richard in Namuongo. Okay. Finally, someone who sends a message from Buko. I am Enoch from Buko. We are sorry about our officers. They have not helped us at all. Okay. Let's have parting shots. I'll start with Dr. Sarah, Dr. Fred Muhumza, Joseph, Yusuf, and finally the ED.
Well, I will give my parting shots on the Kampala flooding saga and the landslides. I think, Madam Edie, you need to assert your authority and stop this channel. And maybe then if you can't, then you have no business being in that office. Because I don't think that the Kampala Capital State Authority, that you are a typical civil servant, like you are trying to assume. You have predecessors, especially the first occupier of that office, that would have thought our authority, although she stayed for about 3 years and left. And I don't think you plan to really stay in that office for long. That's not the nature of office. You need to do one term and do it well. So my view is that your office must function in the interest of the people, not massaging the egos of politicians or becoming a political broker with quack investors that we have in the country. You are going to risk the lives and property of the people if you cannot use your office the way it is supposed to be. I have seen the communication of NEMA. We didn't discuss the environmental impact concerns of that channel development. NEMA, the ED was clear saying they have not given anyone a go-ahead. We have laws in this country which you swore to protect as you took oath of that office. And I don't think that you should open a route for quack investors to risk the lives and well-being of Kampala citizens.
Thank you. Dr. Mhumza, over to you.
Give the ED the credit. Managing Kampala in this political environment is not easy. Her office is not just about the floods, more so in that place. There are how many millions of people in this city? They continue to do their lives, to do their livelihoods. All the borders here, you know, one will be knocked, but there are another 600, 700,000 who continue with their lives. Kampala is really, a lot of things are happening in here.
It's the capital.
Yes. So her desk, you can imagine, sometimes I imagine when she wakes up in the morning, the number of files that are coming in. I talked already about the health. Her clinics need a lot of investment. Her staff need a lot of facilitation. That is only on the health side. Education. So there is a lot that KCCA is managing as an entity. So let's not be veered off by one of these nasty statistics. We say that's an outlier. I can throw it out there and continue with the mainstream of the data. Every time you find an accident on a road, another 20,000 vehicles have been on that road. So don't say this road was badly designed. I hear a lot of these kinds of things. We sympathize with her. We are happy to help, to discuss. As I've said, I've seen so many of these plans for Kampala over the decades. They have good intentions. They never get the money. They never get the political support here and there. Sometimes even the people you are using, I mean, some are not on the same course. You're like having own goals all over the place. I don't want to be in your place, but I want to be next to you so that we can see how best we improve the city. This is all we have. We're all going to be here, walk through this city, things happen in this city. We are training future fellows. Let's appreciate where we are, then jointly agree how do we get from here. As the monitor said, when did the rain begin to beat us? It's already beating us. Now, how do we get out of the rain and the water? It's not going to be very easy, but that's what we have.
Thank you. Joseph, over to you.
I have two things, maybe to my sister, the ED, and then the other is to the president, as he plans to go to Sebei. In one of the holy books, there is a word called scapegoat. And the scapegoat is used for the atonement of the sins of others, but not the sins of the goat itself. And unfortunately, the goat has no choice. Once chosen, it will always be a scapegoat, and it becomes very challenging. And my sister, there have been predecessors in that same office. It is not that they were sinners, but somehow, when time came for atonement of sins of others, the scapegoat had to be given in. And normally, the priest speaks and they let the goat into the wilderness. And that will be the end of the story, which we don't wish to happen to you. In my view, you can't afford, if it were me, I would rather die fighting than sit and maybe appear to be a little bit lamenting and helpless, especially when it's happening. I even rather quit, even if within the first 1 month or 3 months, for as long as I'm standing on the truth, other than waiting until I become a scapegoat. That's my view. My appeal to the president is that as he plans to go to Sebei, that's next week according to the campaign program, that is on 10th and 11th. He will find us in the somber mood. Certainly the environment may not be so good, but the appeal is not all hope is lost, certainly. But there are two things to note. One is there is a disconnect amongst the different MDS. The Ministry of Wildlife is not working together with local government and is not working together with the other ministries. So you find we are suffering as a people, even disaster preparedness like that, there's a disconnect which has led to us, the locals, to suffer when disaster strikes. We don't know what next will come, because when we are resettled temporarily in the land belonging to government, that is Wildlife Authority, and these are Ugandans being relocated there by local government and the RDCs who are part of government, then all of a sudden attacked at night, we feel there is either, some people will be right to think it's intentional. We feel unwanted, we feel we are lacking a sense of belonging. And finally, is that even as the president comes to Sebei, the request is meet some people, especially the elders of your age. They will be able to tell you, because they know, they understand all the corners of Sebei. They also understand the causes of these things. They will tell you the truth. Some of them are not politically motivated. They are old, 90 years, 85 years. They just want to tell you the truth. They have been looking for you, to meet you for the past about 5 years, and they have failed. They have even made attempts to come up to State House.
Okay.
They just want to meet you. So my appeal is, when you come, find the time, Your Excellency, and talk to these elders. They will tell you something that you may wish you had known earlier, and it may solve the problem in Sebei.
Over to Yusuf.
Timothy, listening to this man make his appeal to the president, I remember my politics. I've actually asked Yoweri Museveni, I'll ask again, to give this country a chance to move on without him. Because ideally, issues of Sebei should be properly handled by the local government there and concluded. But for the last 5 years, our friend here has been waiting
to meet the president.
And he took him an opportunity to appear in UBC to make a direct appeal that you meet the elders.
Now, Dr. Yusuf.
How do you run a government like this? Like, it's exhausting to a president to be the elders of Sebei. The local government is dysfunctional. They're waiting for you. And you're going to be there for a couple of hours, and all the issues for the last 5 years are going to be put on your table. I'm appealing to Mr. Museveni. Clearly, we can't beat him in an election. Nobody's going to start a war against him and win. Only his son can afford to stage a coup and overthrow him. He is not going to do that. In that moment, you give the country a chance and say, I've done my bit, please move on. I have one appeal to make to Mr. Chigund one more time. You know, some of us are die-hard supporters of local capital. Some of us are die-hard supporters, and we believe capital can only reproduce itself with the support of government. That capital to actually work, you need the government to come and help you. If you are as connected as he is, you don't behave like an amateur. You don't behave like a sloppy person. If you are as connected as you are as he is, do the right thing. The ED here will not stop Hamis Chigund from doing whatever he sets his eyes on. True. Her office is empowered on paper, but doesn't have the wherewithal to say, Hamisi, I'm going to arrest you, you can't do that. He doesn't have that power. So if you have those powers, if you've been blessed by those powers, you work to a point that even after Museveni's government is gone, you can still sustain your business. But you see this business of having access to the state which enables capital to thrive, and then you behave like an amateur, is boring. And then the second point is they should focus on big money.
Okay.
They should let the poor people also enjoy the spaces. They should look for big money. We have a telecom which is struggling. All our telecommunications are foreign owned. Our coffee 7% is foreign. They should focus on where there's big money. Because if you have state protection, you can access anything with this big money. We have many things that are in ruins. If Amish Chigudu got interested in developing Uganda areas one more time and shipped in wagons, could be making so much money as the investor of Uganda areas, because there's a transport crisis in this country. You see, but you're struggling with poor people, competing with their markets, and then you're doing a bad job. It's really boring, especially if you have access to the state.
Thank you. Lastly, Madam Idi, your parting shot.
Thank you very much, Timothy and the panelists. I have heard what you have said, but I wanted to respond one to Dr. Birete. The office is functioning. It is because some of us, the way we work, you don't push to the media everything you write. We have ordered stopping severally and we have guided. But we don't push out everything we write because the media is not the recipient of what we are writing. Two, in everything you do, somebody has to do the job at some time. It only happens that at some point something may happen, but there is somebody again who has to come and solve that problem. There are many things, as you said earlier, and as other colleagues on the panel said, which you inherit when you come into office. But when you inherit, the issue is for you to be able to correct them for the time you are there where you can. And I think when we are working, we are not supposed to be threatened by somebody left, you will leave. Automatically you will have to leave because you will either retire or die or what. But the important thing, for the time you are there, what have you been able to do? Do what you are able to do in your means, and what we sought to do is to protect the Ugandans. The guidance we have given, the support we have been told to give is intended to guide the Ugandans. And everything on paper to the developer has been to guide the developer to ensure that the Ugandans are safe, our country is safe. I have children, I'll have grandchildren, they need to grow in a safe country. So we are on the same page. And this is the support we intend to give for the time we are in office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To the ED, I hope to invite you to come back, you'll be amicable to come back here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for obliging to be with us. For everyone that has been watching, thank you for watching. And everyone who sent in a message, we really appreciate that. To the technical team that has made today possible, thank you for making today possible. We'll end with this quote: negativity limits reason. Good morning.
Sorry, good morning.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
In a nation hungry for truth, a world where every story matters, there exists a beacon of trust and reliability. For decades, they've been our voice and our window to the world, holding the mirror of our history. With 4 TV stations and 11 radio channels spanning 27 languages, they stand as guardians of information, defenders of truth. With Mascari Heritage Advantage, they uphold every citizen's right to reliable and free information. Their archived stories shaped our past and illuminate our present. Yet now, as new challenges arise and the world evolves, their mission faces its greatest test yet. Be part of our journey and let's navigate the unknown, uncover the untold, and safeguard our future together. Tune into your public broadcaster, for it is the intersection of trust and truth. Because to UBC, your story, and every voice matters. UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The government's core mandate is to maintain law and order, safeguard citizens' rights, and provide essential public services.
Remember, one of the pillars of a roadmap is innovation and entrepreneurship.
There has been this question of how are you protecting our indigenous seed?
It's going to be a tall project that answers somebody's question.
The Front Bench has brought you insightful discussions on governance, security, healthcare, justice, and commerce.
Why do you go through this complicated procedure, involve the lawyers? You bring the case against him, the judge will hear you out and pass judgment, and you're out of court in record time.
We remain committed to keeping you informed and engaged on key national matters.
So these are huge, these are powerful organizations which now Uganda chairs. Why don't you come together?
If we haven't migrated to the e-card because of various reasons, including that not all the people of Uganda have smartphones.
You can sit in your house, apply for a passport. If you have a Ugandan who has a successful logistics firm in the US, it means he can come to Uganda and do a lot more.
Every Monday at 8:30 p.m. with me, Jethro Kasaiji, your interface with the government only on your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.